do you feel for 100k?
Oof, I don't know, but we're going to find out in this video. Let's go! Welcome back to Between Miles.
Hi.
Today we are recording second episode after the intro
Yeah.
in our How to Run a 100k series. So welcome back. Today we're going to talk about something that is key to running a really good 100k. And that is fuel, nutrition.
Because what they say about running an ultra is basically it's a running race, but mainly an eating race as well.
yeah, I mean, you gotta train that gut. So the 100k that I'm running in 4 weeks will be my first 100k.
Yeah.
For Lydia, it's almost like a training run by now.
I'll be coming out of 100 miles, so
that's fair.
You're going to be dragging us all through.
That's the next series, how to run 100 miles now.
Yeah.
So Lydia has got a lot of experience running 100k. And with that, a lot of experience in fueling well during one of them. I'm sure you've made many mistakes.
Yeah.
But by now, you know what to do and what not to do.
We learn from those mistakes.
We learn from them. So today we're going to talk basically about the fueling strategy. So we'll talk about how to carb load for your 100k, how to fuel during your 100k, and we touch a little bit on what to do after, right? Like once you're done, how are you going to refuel, basically?
Key moments afterwards.
Key moment, that's the celebration.
Very key.
So I think we are just going to start right at the start.
Yeah.
What about the carb load? What does that look like for a 100k ultramarathon compared to, say, a marathon, where I would think that you start carb loading usually about 3 to 2 days out?
Yeah.
What do you do with an ultramarathon like this? I mean, it's more than double the distance.
Yeah. So with 100k, you're I feel like it aligns with your taper. So as you start tapering, you're looking into your carb load a bit more.
Okay.
And with 100k, you're going to be looking at that carb load probably a week beforehand is really where you need to be looking at as a slow build into that 100 kilometers. So you don't need to be hitting it super hard, getting loads of carbs in immediately from, 1 week out.
Yeah.
But I would say
you ease into it.
You ease into it, so your body doesn't feel like, oh, I've just had so many carbs, because you are going to need a lot of carbs. So if you're just eating a lot of carbs 2 days beforehand, you're just going to feel really heavy on that start line.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is ease into it, slowly start thinking about taking out maybe some different vegetables out of your diet, things that might have a bit more fiber in the gut, and replacing them with simpler carbs.
Okay.
So, maybe instead of having that broccoli, you'll have a bit more sweet potato, just things like that. And then the usual carb load 2 days before, you're hitting the carbs a little heavier.
Okay.
And I find that's usually the best way to do it. And that means that your carbs are topped up for when you start on that start line.
Yeah, I think when we talk about carb loading, a lot of people think about just loading up for the race. But usually what we want to achieve in a taper is to really refill our glycogen stores from the accumulated fatigue that we've been pushing into our body.
Yeah.
So those glycogen stores, yes, you top up your stores, like your immediate availability of energy, maybe with, what you eat like the night before.
Yeah.
But all the days before help. All that energy does become available once you get to the starting line.
Definitely.
Not immediately, but in like a slow process. So, I mean, obviously I think people watching this, people training for 100k, know how to carb load. Like you should. This shouldn't be your first carb load. But just the very easy swaps is obviously not whole grain bread, but simple bread, not whole grain rice, simple white rice.
Yeah.
Just making already those swaps early on is probably going to help a lot.
I mean, carb loading should feel wrong in a way. Like it goes against everything you're sort of
Yeah.
thinking about health-wise.
Yeah.
You know, even when you're running these sort of things, you think of like, you think of your health, you think of vegetables, all the different colours of the rainbow. And when you're carb loading, it's like white, bland, simple food.
Candy. Yeah.
Sugar.
Sugar, indeed. Yeah, it's not what we get taught, right?
No.
Like, you should not be having these foods, but yep, you should.
Yeah.
For this goal, you should. Okay, so we are gonna start easing into our carb load 7 days before-ish.
Yeah.
And we make it like we gradually increase as we get closer to the race.
Yeah.
Okay, then we get to actual race day.
Woo!
Woohoo! Finally, it is here. We trained so long for this. What are we having on race day? What does a fueling strategy look like for 100k, and how would somebody go about figuring out their fueling strategy?
Yeah, so fueling strategy is all planned out in your training. You should go into the 100k knowing pretty much what you're going to eat, when you need it, how many carbs you think you're going to need per hour. Even if you've never run 100k before, you should be able to sort of predict a very rough time based on, you know, the course, your long runs. So you're going to have an idea of how many carbs you're going to need.
Yeah, I guess you could also look at previous year results and see for yourself, like, do you know that you are a fast runner, an average runner, a slower runner, and then you can take a look at just kind of like the overall results.
Yeah.
To have a little bit of an idea what the course does to people.
Exactly.
Like, obviously you could often have bad weather, and maybe then it takes even longer, but I can imagine that figuring out your time for 100k can be pretty rough.
Yeah.
And looking at results from previous years might be helpful.
Yeah. And if you've never done one, it's a wild guess. Even if you're a fast runner, it doesn't mean that your marathon time is going to have any inclination of what your 100k is, especially elevation and everything coming into it.
Yeah.
Another great one to do is having a look at past runners and the time it takes them in between each aid station. So you can usually see that on the race websites. And so obviously if there's loads of elevation, you know it's going to take long. But if you're looking and you're like, oh, from aid station to aid station, that took one of the top people 3 hours, let's say, you know, like, okay, that aid station, I'm going to take in a lot more carbs, I'm going to fill my vest, I'm going to take extra water if it's needed, all of those things. So super important to do that.
Yeah, that's a good tip for sure.
Because I think especially when it comes to 100k, a lot of them aren't flat races. So those aid station gaps are going to be a lot longer than you think. And if you're out in temperature like this and it's a hot day, you know, you've got to be thinking about those electrolytes and everything else and how much fuel you're going to need.
Okay, so we know that. So what we kind of know, okay, we should look at the overall course. We should figure out kind of how many hours are between aid stations. How, like, are we taking food just at the aid stations? Are we taking things with us? How many carbs per hour are we still targeting?
Yeah.
Lots of questions.
Yeah, so obviously this is going to really depend on how you've been training. You know, if you've been training with 60 grams of carbs per hour and then in the race you're like 120, fine, we're going to hit a problem here.
Yeah.
And there might be some GI issues. They're just the same with if you've been training with 120 and all of a sudden you're just not fueling and you're only taking in 60, you're going to really feel that because you're not used to it. So whatever you've been training with, really try and stick to that. Obviously things change on race day, and it's very easy to have problems or things arise, but we're going to try and stick to the plan. And also I think it's key not to get discouraged if the plan sort of derails. If you have been training with gels and potato chips, let's say, and then all of a sudden your stomach's like, don't want potato chips, really want sweets, go with it. If your brain is telling you that, there's a reason.
Yeah.
And you've just got to sometimes run with it. So I think people can get a little stressed if things derail. But I always like to look at fueling as if you're really, if it's a flat course and you're really exerting yourself and you're going in competitively, you're probably going to be on the higher end of gels and drink mixes.
Yeah.
Because
You want quick carbs.
you want quick carbs, you want something simple.
Yeah.
And that's what works. Whereas when you start looking at maybe your first ultra, or you're going to be going a little bit slower, anything over that 12 to 14 hour mark, you're looking at a lot more real food intake. And like, I know myself that I like to go on mainly gels, but at all aid stations I have real food. And it's a lot easier to carry.
So you're taking the gels basically for all the parts between aid stations.
Yeah.
And then at aid stations you fuel up with real food.
Exactly. And I'll grab some and put some in my vest. It's also starting a race with loads of real food.
What types of real food are you putting in your vest? I'm just imagining like this, completely squished sandwich.
Yeah, I've done that before. I've got a peanut butter sandwich and squished it up and put it in.
Completely brown banana.
What I like to take is, I know in England sometimes they give you actual little small packets of crisps.
Okay.
So I'll take a packet of crisps,
Yeah.
let the air out, scrunch it up and put it in. And bread. White bread's usually available.
You take a whole
Just
loaf
take
of
that.
bread
Yeah. Just put it in the bag.
or hand destroyer style.
Yeah. And there's usually some sort of like oat bar-y thing.
Yeah.
I'll take something like that. Potato chips are just a great one because of the salt.
Yeah.
So you're just getting that in, and it's anything salty at an aid station is nice to take because you're probably going to be taking sweet gels. So then having some real food that's salty
Yeah.
is just a lovely contrast.
And especially if your gel doesn't contain any sodium.
Yeah.
And you're not taking, well, you should be taking electrolytes, but maybe you're running low or whatever, having that extra sodium from the crisps will help with the absorption of the gel.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, makes sense that that's a good choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, you might be craving it, indeed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I think, even if you're going out there and mainly even just walking it, you're going to be out there for 24 hours,
Yeah.
I would still say take some gels with you.
Yeah.
Just for those in case moments where you're like, I need something to get me through to that aid station. It's just so much easier just to keep as an emergency. And then get your real food in.
Yeah. What about drink mixes, carb mixes?
Yeah, they're great. They can pack away quite easily, which is nice.
Yeah, especially if you have the small powdered ones, right?
Exactly,
Like,
yeah.
you can take it with you.
I'd say it's obviously way easier if you have crew there or a friend
Yeah.
that's going to meet you, so you can actually just switch out your bottles. They've
Yeah.
already done it for you. But if it's a hot day, I actually find drink mixes a lot easier because you can put your electrolyte in, you can put your drink mix in, and you can put water in, and it's hot. You're going to be sipping on it. It's going to be easy to intake, and all of a sudden you've taken all your carbs.
Yeah.
And when it's hot and you're taking a sticky gel, you're like, oh
Yeah.
no. So
Yeah, you probably don't want that towards the
yeah.
end. Have you found that there are things that change in the way that you approach your fueling at the start of the race and at the end?
Yeah, I found that I used to wait a long time to fuel.
Okay.
I think in general, like race nerves, you're in that rush. You've got a really long day ahead of you. So you're almost like, oh, I don't want to take a gel yet.
Yeah.
And sometimes, because it's trail, single track, maybe technical for a bit at the beginning, it's quite hard to get a gel out when you might be having to get your poles out or
Yeah.
all of these other things going on, especially if you've got technical downhills, people trying to get past you. All of a sudden, it's been like an hour and you're
Yeah.
like, crap, the hell's the time gone?
Yeah.
So that's what I'd actually recommend. If it looks like a technical course at the beginning, have your carb drink mix.
Yeah.
Because then you do not have to worry about getting a gel out. There's no problems there, no technical problems. You can just keep sipping on it
Yeah.
until you get to a point where you're like, I can take a gel now.
I think that's a
It's
really
easy.
good tip, because I think that obviously it's going to be my first 100k, but thinking about the 50k that I did back in Madeira,
Yeah.
a previous series, if you've
Yeah.
not seen it. I completely lost track of time
Yeah.
in the first, well, from the start line to the first aid station.
And obviously 10k doesn't seem like a lot. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, 10k. Actually, that's a long time to not fuel.
I think I was out there already for 2.5 hours or something, or
Yeah.
2 hours, and I realized that I was severely underfueled.
Yeah.
Which is a lesson I've learned, and I probably wouldn't make the same mistake with having a drink mix. Like, you would be fueling without even realizing it necessarily.
Exactly.
So obviously, like, ideally this is part of your strategy, but if it's your first one, you might get into the same trouble as me, where, you know, there's so many different things going on.
Yeah.
You think about, like, there's a lot to think about, basically.
Yeah.
So it's easy to miss out on something.
Yeah, exactly.
And just having that already in your drink mix, or in your flask, I mean, having the drink mix in your flask takes away a part of that stress.
Oh, 100%. It's a great strategy. Even if it's not going to be technical, just makes things a little easier.
Yeah.
And the worst scenario is you don't want it, get to the next stage, you can always dump it out and have water or just an electrolyte.
Yeah.
Or use it for later.
And obviously, like, when people are running a marathon, they might have their fueling strategy based on, you know, like, I'm gonna fuel after X amount of Ks. We already know, okay, with an ultra you should be fueling based on time.
Yes, 100%.
But it might be really difficult to time when you get to the aid station.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Like, okay, maybe you want to fuel every 30 minutes, but what if you're like at 60 and you know that in 15 minutes you might get to the aid station? Or how do you kind of handle that?
Well, with those situations, that's where those little gels come in handy. Or even just having like a couple Haribo or sweets or something just to tide you over. So if you don't want to take a whole gel, fine, and you are really focusing on real food, take some Haribo, get those sugar levels up, get to the next aid station. If you're not so fussed about real food, then I would take that gel. When you get to the aid station, I'd have less real food, but I would take real food with you. So then once you're back out, you can like snack on things.
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake I made in my 50k, which in our second 50k, which I did together with Lydia, I finally have my coach with me. This mistake was not made anymore, but not having enough with you between aid stations. That was something that I really struggled with. And if I can give one tip, like, obviously you're gonna maybe be carrying quite a bit of kit with you, so maybe your vest is not the lightest, but don't skip on fuel. Like, it's better to carry a bit more. Just carry that weight. Make sure that you have enough. I'd say.
Because I actually think you can end up feeling quite nauseous near the end if you don't fuel enough. And that can actually really be detrimental. Like, it's not that you're going to feel tired and just like, you can actually end up making yourself feel like really sick. To the point where you can't take on any fuel because you've not taken on any fuel, which is really annoying to think about, but that is probably what's happening if you're feeling nauseous.
Or you didn't get enough sodium. And that's like,
also,
people don't get enough sodium. Because of that, they start drinking more water. Because not having enough sodium makes you thirsty. But then by drinking more, you're diluting the sodium in your blood even further, and now you're really nauseous. So
maybe we need to do an episode on salt.
On hydration, I think so. That might be a separate episode, but just if I could just give one little disclaimer here, make sure that 1, you eat enough, and 2, that you do have sodium in there, be it in your gels, in your chews, in your bars, in your food, in your crisps, in your potatoes, whatever you're taking. Sodium, my friends. Sodium.
Okay.
All right, so that is during. Now, final thing, post-run.
Oh, the
we finished the 100k.
Woo!
Are we going out immediately to eat a burger?
We're going out partying. We're gonna have margaritas. No, we're not.
We're probably not. We're probably completely exhausted. How do we make sure that we recover well enough and we also do get to celebrate?
So in the ideal situation, you've got some friends at the finish line waiting for you, cheering you on. What you want them to be holding is a chocolate milk, a little protein shake, something that has a little bit of carbs in,
Yeah.
a teeny tiny bit of fat in, and protein.
Yeah.
And that is what you want as soon as you finish. And I think having something in liquid form is just so easy, because when you finish, you're still going to be thirsty. You're still going to be taking on liquids. Like, you're still going to be able to take that in.
Yeah.
Because after 100k, your stomach's been through the pits of hell and it just doesn't want food.
Yeah.
You've been eating gels, you've been eating crisps, sweets, loads of water. It's been moving around the whole time. It's just like, I don't want food.
Yeah.
So having that little protein shake or something like that, just simple way to start recovery.
Yeah.
That would be ideally the first thing to do.
Okay.
And that could, that can then allow you to have that moment to, one, celebrate, maybe get home and have a shower before you go out for dinner, anything like that.
Yeah.
Because
yeah, and maybe it's super late and you're not even really having dinner, but then at least
just go
you're
straight to
fueled
bed.
up,
Yeah,
and then the next morning you can truly top up again.
exactly. And I think it might be very normal that your hunger might not come back for 1 or 2 days afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Some people it does, and it's absolutely fine. But some people just don't find that they're hungry.
Yeah.
And then on the second day, all of a sudden, your hunger will come back, don't worry. It will come back in full force. Just might take a couple of days to get there.
And then just listen to it, right?
Yeah.
Just fuel as your body is
100%.
like giving you cues. Don't hold back. Don't feel like, oh, but I'm not running anymore. I'm in recovery. Like, I'm literally sitting on the sofa. I shouldn't be eating. No, you should. You should.
100%.
Your muscles, your body is craving that fuel for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's to get you back to a good form.
And what you actually usually find is like your body weight will probably, drop from the ultra, and then it will go over what you were.
Yeah.
But that's because it's retaining water.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to, heal your muscles, heal everything that's gone on.
It's in stress, right? It's in
Exactly.
pure stress.
And that body weight will go back to normal. It's not because you've just eaten,
Yeah.
3 days worth of food.
Yeah, there's water retention, there's a spike in cortisol, which will also lead to retention of energy. So it makes sense. A lot of sense. Okay. Well, I think that wraps it up. Lots of really good advice there. So yeah, if you're running 100k, let this help you to build your fuel strategy.
Stay fueled.
Stay fueled. Stay hydrated. And we'll see you in the next episode, where we're going to talk about maybe gear.
Gear, yeah.
Maybe gear.
I think we'll whip it all out.
Okay.
Like we're going up Everest.
Let's do that. All right. See you on that one.
Bye.
Bye.